Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are, and welcome to another episode of Take the Points, a true underdog podcast. Hello, everybody. Once again, it is your boy, Robbie. I am here with the Hockey Elite,
Oh boy.
one of my longtime buddies. You heard me mention him on the pod before. This is my buddy Ram is joining us tonight. Now, why is he joining us? That is because Steve and Wilson just don't care about the pod. They've decided we're going on vacation with our family, and we're just don't really want to join the pod this week. So this is my second week in a row with just me on here from the original cast. So I decided, Ram, I thought it would be a great time to have you on. Talk a little Red Wings, talk some sports. I know you're a longtime listener, so welcome to the show. How does it feel to be on the pod?
Yeah, first time, long time. Happy to be here. Big fan of the pod. Actually an avid listener. Maybe from since day one. So, big fan of Wilson and Steve. Bummed that I don't get to have them on the. But talking to you is okay too. But
Okay.
yeah, happy to get the call out of the bullpen. Was not warming up. Had about 12-hour notice. So, happy to see pitch a few relief innings here, maybe like a 2/3 of an inning, and then have you do the majority of the talking. But happy to be here. Big Detroit sports fan. Probably not as much of a slappy as you, but
no, I'm a slap. I'm a slap. Ram, own it. I am a Detroit slap. That's okay. I'm proud to admit it.
Be all right. So yeah, happy to. I love all the hot takes on the pod. Happy to be here, and Wings are losing already, so I'm
classic.
Ready to get into it.
Ram, using your bullpen analogy, you're not going to be a Kenta Maeda tonight, right? We're not going to be a gas can. We're going to be are we thinking like Jose Valverde in the good days? Are we where are we at in the bullpen?
Maybe like Joaquin Benoit or he was serviceable, and then like towards the end probably like fade out. So hoping to have like maybe a hot 15 minutes to get this started off, and then
I love it.
And then maybe people just fast forward. So we
got it. Okay, cool. Which is not going to happen. But yeah, so
do you get the fast forward stats? This is like, hey, like guy in Virginia fast forwarded at 12 minutes when Coach Carter was brought up.
Yes, the infamous Coach Carter. Well, this is a shout out to Wilson. Have you recently watched Coach Carter, Ram?
I have not. I actually recently renewed my Paramount Plus to watch the UEFA Champions League, and Coach Carter was on there. So I was like, maybe I need to fire this up and take a second look, because that's what Wilson said, and I trust him. I actually listened to a little bit more of Wilson's band than watch Coach Carter.
But, solid, right? Yeah, very solid. Last night saved my life. Really, really solid stuff for Wilson.
My kind of tunes, little emo, and never got out of the face. It's a lifestyle.
So despite the fact that his sports takes sometimes suck, at least his music is good, is pretty much what you're saying.
I mean, I just don't want to meet him on the basketball court is really what I have been. Yeah, don't want to.
Well, you won't be able to. So. You won't be able to now due to an unfortunate injury. But Wilson's avoiding surgery, so we're going just with straight up recovery, physical therapy. So he will be okay.
Good.
But got the physio. Ram, happy to have you on. I know you've been a long time listener, which is great. Obviously you've been a Detroit sports fan your whole life, just like myself, just like Wilson, just like Steve. I know you played hockey growing up. So yes, are we going to be on here dropping Wilson takes of like, I could be in the NBA, you can be in the NHL? Probably not, but I do value your opinion as an avid Red Wings fan. Also got to give you a shout out too. Big soccer fan, or should I say football. So we got to maybe get you back on the pod again to do something around some European soccer, if you'd be up to it.
Yeah, maybe. It's Champions League right now, winding down. Always love to talk soccer. Our buddy Colin, also big soccer guy. The Hockey Elite label, that's tough. I, never continued to play rec league hockey. Played at a very low level. Not as not a decorated college athlete such as yourself. So,
Oh, thank you.
you
Thank you.
know,
Because cross country gets so much attention.
do love hockey. Do love playing it. Hockey elite. We'll see. But the way the Wings are playing,
Yeah,
maybe like a few of these guys can get a look in my league. So
got it. Oh, I love that subtle dig. Yeah. So Ram and I were talking before we jumped on the pod too. I'm coming in hot on the Red Wings right now. Like I am aggressively upset. I'm angry. I was thinking today, what kind of topics can we talk about? We'll maybe touch a little bit on the Tigers at the end of the pod. Lions draft is 2 weeks away. Pistons are kind of gearing up for the playoffs. We can touch on all, mostly the Red Wings tonight. Just because it's frustrating, like we can jump into all the details and Ram and I have some thoughts of kind of what we think went wrong, but just it is so demoralizing for a team like the Detroit Red Wings. And you heard me mention it a couple of weeks ago about, them being Hockeytown. And I look at this city and how proud we've been. And there's pretty much an entire generation of Red Wing fans that now are used to this mediocrity or, subpar performance, which has only continued. This year the Red Wings are, barely hanging on to a chance to go to the playoffs. If they lose tonight, they're out. And if they need a miraculous 10 different things to happen. But Ram, we'll just kind of start with, Red Wings on the verge of their 9th straight season without a playoff appearance. It's longer than any streak in their history, second longest active streak in the NHL. You're a lifelong Detroit Wings fan. Give me just your initial take and how you're feeling right now about the Red Wings.
yeah, I mean, just generally disappointing. It feels like it's been a really long time since the Wings were relevant. I can remember, back when we lived in Royal Oak together, or actually before we lived in Royal Oak together, you had another apartment, and I remember the Wings making their like 22nd consecutive playoff berth, and
Mm-hmm.
me, you, and Bill like watched it in your old apartment, and I don't know, that just seems so long ago, and this era of the Red Wings is just generally disappointing. It's been a hard watch. Um, just hard to get excited about it because even when they were like kind of booming or like they had some glimpses of like, oh, you know what, they're kind of picking up some steam a little bit here. It
Mm-hmm.
never really felt like they can compete with any of the actual like elite teams in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, especially last night. I mean, or 2 nights ago. Like you look at the Habs. Like the Habs were so bad. Like they were really bad, and
Mm-hmm.
like they weren't even supposed to make a run this year. They were supposed to have another year, and like even their points or playoff drought is
Mm-hmm.
not as long as the Red Wings. Like,
Right.
um, I mean, I think I saw that the last time that the saw on Spit and Chicklets that like the last time that the Red Wings and the Bruins both missed the playoffs was like the last time the Leafs won the cup, which was like '67 or something like that.
I'm about to say, we know that's a long ass time. We're talking about the Leafs winning the cup, but that's a whole
So
other topic.
yeah,
But
I
yeah.
mean the general. It's been a hard watch because I even when you do get excited about them, you know that they're really still not in that upper echelon of
Right.
like what we're used to. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this last like Lions season was the first ever Lions season where you're like, wow, like the like Lions are like power ranked number one. Like this is nuts. And like that
Yeah.
was really just like what we kind of became accustomed to as Red Wings fans, like being relevant at least.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just like they're just not even in the conversation. They're just like kind of laughable.
Right.
Just have stunk for a while. New arena has not had one memorable moment in it. Like honestly, like I can't. It just stinks. And I love the Wings. You know, just my boyhood team, and I think
Yeah.
that's a product of them being like our age group. It's a product of them being relevant when we were young, and
Right.
having like legendary players. So like maybe that's why we follow them as much as we do. Detroit and Michigan is like a great hockey area,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it just stinks to have such a legendary franchise be just so bad, like just mediocre. just not having the same kind of expectations that we should have for them, and not really holding the like people accountable that should be held accountable, which I know you're going to
There
go
it
off on.
is.
So
You're teeing me up. You're teeing me up. Yeah, I, I agree. I think it's a storied tradition for the Red Wings. And I think you nailed a great point too. I think this is most sports fans feel this. If a team goes through a lull when you're in the, probably your peak fanship, which a lot of times does, tend to be when you're a little bit younger, just because of the nature of what you have going on in your life. Like the Red Wings, we were very fortunate growing up where, the Red Wings in 97, 98, right? 02, 08. I mean, we had, 4 Stanley Cups essentially in the prime of our sports kind of, watching mecca. And then you look at what's happened, since then. And like the Lions are a great example. Look at our Lions experience during that exact same time. I mean, that was the end of the Barry era. They were about to be absolutely horrible with Matt Millen. The Tigers obviously got hot around the same time. Then the Pistons were hot, right? Like there was a lot going on in Detroit around that time outside of the Lions. And this was Hockeytown. That's how we built our name. And I think when you look now, what's happening, and Ram, you just said it, is, we held this team accountable to Stanley Cups. That's what this team wanted. That's what the fans wanted. That's what ownership wanted at the time, right? When, Mike Ilitch, rest in peace, was the primary owner of the team. And you look now and, we're so upset that they're not getting into the playoffs. They're going to limp into the playoffs, even if they were to get in. Now, sure, hockey's team can get hot in the 8 seed. I think that's my biggest frustration is, what are we playing for? Are we fighting for cups, or are we fighting just to get into the playoffs to say we made it? It's like you said at the end of the Ken Holland era. Remember when they were making all those funky trades? I think we traded a first-round pick for Kyle Quincy, if I remember right, like midway through the season to
my boy
try
Kyle
to make
Quincy.
the playoffs, right? I mean, like that was just a different time at the end of Ken Holland's era, but just to me, it's been difficult to watch because I don't know the direction. Where you bring up a team like the Lions, they're trying to win a Super Bowl. Like, what are the Red Wings trying to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like it's like I think we talked about this before, but like my hottest take is that the Red Wings aren't, like, without the success that they're having, like you just can't really like call it Hockeytown. Like it's just Hockeytown was very based on like the Red Wings were like the best team in town. They were perennial contenders. They like they had an iconic arena, an iconic franchise, and now it's like kind of just like they haven't really gotten into this new era of the NHL. And like my hot take would be that like there's really not as many Red Wing fans as there used to be because they're not good. Like they're not. I mean, like I know
Right.
it's like the Lions are good, so then they're good. But like but it's just that football is king. Detroit is like overall a sports town. People care about the Red Wings, but when they haven't been relevant in years, and Florida just scored against us 3-1.
Unbelievable. Unfucking believable. This is a live tracking of the Red Wings playoffs hopes dwindling. Whatever little air was left just getting sucked out of them. So this is a great time to do this episode.
Yeah, I mean they just and so like what I'm saying is that the buzz in the town about the Red Wings has not been there in a very, very long time. I think maybe the last time you could talk about it was probably when Steve Yzerman was hired, because that was a big move, and people were like, "Oh, this is it!" Like Yzer plan, like he's our guy. He's a homegrown guy. Like he means a lot to the city, and I think that was maybe the last time. And it's just it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we look at kind of where they are now. I think it's a good transition. A lot of the talk this week, everyone knows I'm an avid listener of a lot of Detroit sports talk. I read The Athletic and follow a lot of the local blogs. I'm really into the beat writers too, and kind of Detroit. And I think what's so interesting, and Ram, you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, kind of prepping for the show, is Steve Yzerman has been the general manager of this team now, coming on 6-7 years now. And, it's been the coach's problem. It's been the players not being good enough. It's been Chris Ilitch not being a great owner. I mean, we've heard every excuse in the book of why this team has not performed well outside of Steve Yzerman. And that's where I think as a fan, I was telling you earlier, like Steve Yzerman is an idol to a lot of people, right? I mean, our buddy Walsh, like he is an absolute idol to him.
It's his password for everything.
Right, exactly. Shout out, consumer hack, identity theft. But I think when you look at what the difference is now, is you really have to separate out that fanship for Steve Yzerman as a player versus his ability to orchestrate and build a successful team. And you said it, like when he came over to the Red Wings from Tampa Bay, the only thing that I can equate in my life where I feel like there's been maybe an equal level of excitement was probably when Jim Harbaugh came back to coach Michigan, right? The legend of the team, and Steve Yzerman is just way more of a legend, I think, than Jim Harbaugh was to Michigan, but nonetheless, like both similar feelings within the fan base. And Jim Harbaugh, took him 7 years to win a title, or whatever the hell it was, 8 years. He was at Michigan. And Steve Yzerman, just I think if his last name was not Yzerman, I think he would have been gone 3 years ago, 2 years ago, with what we've seen, 2 epic collapses. And for me personally, I put this all in Steve Yzerman's lap because his fingerprints are all over this team. Do you agree with that? Or do you think do you have any of this Ken Holland thought of, well, Kenny left him with nothing and, they weren't in a good spot and he really had to rebuild? Or do you think Steve Yzerman deserves a heavy, heavy dose of blame like I do and kind of what's gone wrong?
It's interesting with Harbaugh, too, with the Harbaugh comparison. Like, you think about the years before he won the championship. I mean, like, he was on the hot seat.
Yeah, he was.
And, like, that's Michigan football, which is, like, probably maybe the second biggest in town, behind the Lions, or, or even some would argue bigger. But, so you think about Yzerman. The blame is on Stevie. But my thing is that he had the period of time where like he should be like successful now has like definitely passed, right? Like there's there's this rebuilding year. Like I can't take you that long to rebuild. Like now these are all his guys. These are all his moves. Like he's the one that is to blame. I think that like maybe like the people that are calling for his firing, like the people who are defending him are saying like, oh, like maybe you can give him a pass for like the first like 2-3 years. I don't know. Like if that was gonna be the case, then like, oh, now it's like 3 years. But again, in today's NHL and honestly in today's professional sports, like loyalty is gone. Like you can't be loyal anymore and be successful. Like, and I think that's something in this town that's like hard to deal with. Like for instance, like
very true. But that's a Detroit thing. That is a Detroit thing of sometimes just loving our players and loving our former athletes so much that it blinds us a lot to maybe the reality of like how good really, like, are they Detroit good or are they, like league good? And I think sometimes we get stuck in they're Detroit good versus being elite, right? Like do we have any elite players on the Red Wings? Like I don't see any,
Like my thing, like the thing is that I think that Yzerman came in with a pedigree. Like you look at like when he's chosen to like help Team Canada. Like he obviously had a really good pedigree in Tampa. He left when he didn't actually win a cup with them, but like his team that he had all his handprints in, like when he had 1 year left in his contract in Tampa, like they won the cup. So then he pretty much like won that cup for them, or like pretty much assembled that group. Here, I mean, but at the same time, if you look at his success in Tampa, it was almost the same time frame where like he's been here. So then you're just saying like you're just not acclimated, and you're just swinging and missing. So then like, did you get really lucky in Tampa? Like, did you have like different scouts? Because my thing is with the Ken Holland thing is that like, I mean, mutually parted ways with the Oilers after losing Game 7 last year in the Stanley Cup final. Like, what did Ken Holland do in Edmonton? I mean, yes, like you could say that like, yes, Ken Holland is like obviously like a hockey mind. He's not a complete idiot, but I do think that Ken Holland's success in Detroit was like him being a product of a brain trust,
Yeah.
where you had Jim No working with him,
Hmm.
and then like you had Steve Yzerman like towards so they like before he went to Tampa. So like it was kind of
Yep.
like it was all of them together. And then like like Jim Nill's in Dallas. Like Dallas is
Yep.
like a really good franchise. You look at Tampa after Yzerman left, like they still are really really good, relevant, like
Yep.
good franchise. So
Yeah.
um, it's really just like the pieces that Stevie has put in have not worked. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not really subscribing to the theory that they should fire him, but in any other town, he would be fired. In any other and this is just going to go back to my hot take that it's not really a hockey town anymore because
Yeah.
you can't really look at if you look at other hockey cities like in Canada, which is like hard to compare, but like you look at like the situation in like Vancouver. Like Vancouver had like this like off ice stuff going on between was it JT Miller and what's his name but like everybody's dialed in there, like everybody, like the entire like sports media, the like all the fans. Like you look at places like Toronto, also like hard to compare, but like Toronto's another like it's a three sports city, like um
Yeah.
so like you just it's hard, but I just think
And
that
you, and you feel that because of, and I think what you're trying to say too is maybe if you separate out how good has Steve Yzerman been versus maybe the pressure he's been getting from the fan base, right? Where I think,
yeah
and you hear like Mike Valenti talk about it all the time in Detroit, who's a big time radio guy. He's from New York. It takes a certain person to work on a New York team because you're going to get scrutiny. You're going to expect to succeed immediately. And like if you look at the Red Wings, I think which is what you're trying to say is like the pressure that's been applied from your local media, which I think has been bullshit. I think they've been easy on Steve, right? Like love them
yeah
all, but I don't think they've given listen to the press conferences with him. It's all just
his
fluff. It's all Steve
his
like
seat is not hot enough.
no, right. And it is the responsibility of, I think, media to put some of that pressure on them. Like you hear podcasts like the one you're on right now, the local radio, whatever it is, like that's where you hear a lot of the pressure, but you don't see it in the headlines in the papers that say, Steve Yzerman has failed. It's all, what's coming next, what prospects do we have kind of coming down the pipe. But Ram, I love your take. I love your point too on kind of the brain trust because you know, I think the Jim Nill call out is, incredible. And even Kenny Holland, like, and what Jim Delvano's still with the Red Wings too. He's
Devillano, yeah.
82. I mean, he's like an assistant or whatever to the GM, but it's like Chris Draper's been here, right? Nick Lidstrom's back in town. Like that's a very interesting front office in itself too, right? You got three former players that all played together that I'd say are idols. I mean, obviously Lidstrom and Yzerman. You just wonder, like, if you look at where Yzerman has failed versus where he did in Tampa, is he drafted. I mean, some of his drafts, like you said in Tampa, were insane. I mean, in 9 seasons as general manager of the Lightning, Yzerman was 402, 238, and 64. They qualified for the playoffs in 6 out of those 9 seasons. The only 2 seasons they didn't make it was like his first or his second and third year. They did not make the playoffs, and they reached the Stanley Cup final in 2015. But he drafted Nikita Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Braden Point, Andre Palat, Anthony Cirelli, Cal Foote, signed undrafted players, Tyler Johnson, right? Like these are like that was his team. Like that is what I don't want to say ran into, but without that, the Lightning are not what they were. We haven't seen that in Detroit. Like it's been, what has it been? Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond, like in Marco Casper, like he hasn't been anything special. Like that was like a once in a, it's like Brad Holmes' draft when he drafted 5 all pro guys in that one draft. Like Yzerman just didn't have that magic here. And I think that's why it's put a lot more pressure on free agency and he's just failed.
Yeah, the defense is I mean, like, what you got Ben Sherratt, you got Mo Seider, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I just
Jeff
there's
Petrie,
really
are we kidding? Is Dan
there's
paying the Wings to have him on the squad because he's calling Tigers games? I mean, what the hell are we doing?
there's no one really to write home about. I mean, like I would argue even like Larkin was supposed to be a unique talent. He's like or a generational talent. Like he's a good guy. He's good. He's not like he's
He's
not
not
even like
great.
he's not even like I mean like his Larkin's best games this season were for the Four Nations. Like that was that was when he looked awesome. Um,
But then,
so
Ram, you also got to wonder, was that maybe the guys around him? Again, coming back to Yzerman is like, how do you put your players in a position where
yeah,
those around them can lift them? I think like Larkin is not the type of player, in my opinion, based on what we've seen, that's going to lift, you know, guys around them to be at this elite level. I think if Larkin has that skill around him, great point on the Canada piece. Look how well he performed when it wasn't all the pressure on him and he had competent players around him. Right now, I don't think he's a number one A center on a team based on the talent that we have around him. At
yeah.
least
I
I don't think,
mean,
and that's Yzerman.
like watching the vast majority of Wings games this year, the team just doesn't look like fired up and like congruent. Like
Yeah,
the only, I mean, like you could argue maybe Kane and DeBrincat. Like obviously they love playing with each other. Like DeBrincat has like close to 40 goals, maybe more than 40. Like he's had a good like,
yeah,
but
he's had a great year. He's had a
but
great
like
year.
that's really it. Like I don't,
Yeah,
Tarasenko, like he is. Every single time Tarasenko's on the ice, it's like, how is this guy a two-time Stanley Cup winner? Like you kind of like get the signing, but like he's gonna be a third liner, but he has been so atrocious that it's like, you couldn't have even thought that he would be this bad. I mean the
yeah,
goal
he's got
like
10. He has 10 goals and 21 assists in 75 games. For context, DeBrincat in that same time has 35 goals and 30 assists. I know DeBrincat's at a different echelon, but
yeah,
like, are you kidding?
just the players are like, and I don't know, it just haven't really got. There was a period of time this year where I was fired up for a little bit, and it looked like
Yeah,
they were enjoying themselves, and then they slid again, and it was just like, you know, this is gonna be another year of this, and I don't know,
yeah, I
like
think
just
they got that new coach boost probably too, right? Like I think
yeah,
we like, and again, like if I was to break this down, Ram, as we go through this of like where I think we failed, just to dissect this in an organized and structured way, is like we'll start Yzerman, and I want to talk about kind of the decisions that Yzerman can make. He can't control how good or bad a player is going to be on the ice. We know that comes down to the players, right? It's like in basketball, right? You can give a guy a wide open three. If he doesn't put it in, like ultimately that was his shot to take. The GM's not the one taking the shot, but he at least put him in a position to be successful. The first piece that I want to kind of run through to me, it's inept at coaching and the ability to identify a coach that truly can build a culture here. It's the free agency failure that we just kind of run through. It's trade debacles and or just lack of doing any type of trade. And to me, it still is poor player development, quick player development. And I think if we go through those four things, like starting with the inept coaching, right? He retained Jeff Blashill after we had a horrible 2019-2020 season, like absolutely horrible. Remember, it was okay. Yzerman going to bring his guy in, decides not to, hangs on to him for another 2 years, I think. Then ends up firing him, right? Brings in Derek Lalonde, who was, kind of a Tampa product, right? Comes in, did okay off the start, but then has an epic collapse last year. There was rumors what was going on in the locker room. End up hanging on to him all summer, only to start the year horribly, and then you end up firing him midway through the season and bring in, Todd McClellan. And I think Todd's done a decent job. Obviously, he started off super hot, but the coaching to me is also like, to your point, what is the vision? What is, you think Lions, you think grit, you think Tigers, you think scrappy, right? You think Pistons, you kind of get that Detroit bad boy vibe. I think Red Wings, and we think anything losers. Like, you know what I mean? That's my vibe.
yeah,
But I mean, do you agree on the coaching? Like that's been a key part of this too, is Yzerman's inability to identify a leader of men for this team.
yeah. Like Jeff Blashill reminds me of like Brad Osmus. Like it's just like an afterthought, like of just a
Yeah.
bad time, like just not great. Um, yeah, I
After taking
mean,
over for Babcock, right? That was right after Babcock was when Blashill took over, who
yeah.
Babcock, for all his warts, was a great coach for the Wings. We won a cup.
He just hasn't really hasn't had a good 2 years, or last 3 years from
Yeah.
like Babcock has been pretty rough. He's
And a
probably
little
on a
rough.
boat. He's probably on a boat somewhere in like Ontario, just like hanging out.
Yes,
But
probably yelling at someone too. But
yeah, probably yelling at his kids.
yeah.
But yeah, I like the coach has. It's all about culture. Like the want to play for the win. I mean, like
Hmm.
now, like I mean, think about the two teams. I think like think about the Milwaukee Bucks. Like
Hmm.
who the hell wants to go play in Milwaukee? Like those, but they started building a culture,
Hmm.
and around Giannis, like they have a generational talent, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, like it becomes a destination. They win an NBA championship. It's not really a perfect comparison, but then like the Lions, like also just been perennial losers, and then you start
Hmm.
building a culture, and but like the answer to your question is we don't know, and that's why it's so frustrating because
Yeah.
like it was like, oh, it's a youth movement, but then like you bring in Patrick Kane, like I don't know, Pat Kane, like for what it's worth, like he's recovered, like he was never supposed to recover from his injury, probably should have retired. It's awesome that he's like still producing at the NHL level, but like should he be a first line center?
No.
Like
No.
no, like he could be like a power play specialist, like and
Hmm.
you know what I mean, like he shouldn't
Yeah.
be like getting the like he shouldn't be a first line center, like he doesn't have the speed, like he's not in today's NHL, like he's still serviceable, like he's still producing obviously, but like
Yeah.
he should be a piece, he should not be like one of your go-to like guys who it's like, and it's so yeah, so then to answer your question, the culture is I don't know. Is it the youth movement? Is it like, oh, like we're Detroit, like we're a historic franchise, like it's a great place to play? Like no, like these young guys in the NHL, they want to play somewhere where they're going to win, and where it's going to be somewhere where they can have the kind of culture that they want to like also have a locker room that's like, and that's like going back to my other point. It's like I don't really see them like having fun together. Like I didn't
No.
like that. Like
I
it's
agree.
kind of a snoozer. Like and honestly,
Yeah.
like you can kind of hear it with Ken Daniels. Like there was a few times I was like, I'm gonna switch over to the other feed. Like
Yeah.
Daniels is boring as shit. Like so, I don't like it's
Yeah.
tough. Like in
He.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I
He's
think
a bit of a
it
homer
just
that's the hard part with some of the networks. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah
It's hard for these guys to be critical of the team when you're down 4-1, right? It's like you're trying to, squeeze something that just isn't there. And I think we see that with a lot of the Detroit media. I think that's just, I think sports media in general, it's a whole nother topic, has changed just in terms of the inability to criticize the team for the clearly obvious, right? Had the
yeah.
Charlotte Hornets on game randomly last night. They were down 25 and their announcers like, man, I can't believe he hit that three. And it's like, dude, you're down 30 on a Wednesday night. Like,
Fake news.
what are we doing? Like, sorry, we'll see you. Like
It's
that's a, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation,
I
but
think
yeah.
the loyalty point in Detroit sports, especially, I think is tough. Like the comparison with like Yzerman with like um I think the other obvious is like Joe Dumars, or
Hmm.
you brought up Alan Trammell.
Yeah.
Like that's something that needs to go in in like nowadays. Like I don't like I mean I can't like a hypothetical would be like think of like how much of a culture change like Dan Campbell did. Like
Yeah.
if like and and it could like very well happen. Like the Lions could like suck again soon. Like it's
Yeah.
very possible for them to like not be like even in a playoff chase. Like it's just the way that the NFL works.
Right.
And
Right.
I like have a good feeling it's going to take a long time for them to run Dan Campbell. Like and like so I do think that like and Valenti has I've had his up and downs listening to Valenti, but like I think he has a point where it's like I think Eisman's probably on the lifetime contract until he walks away. And but
Do
like
you think that's a real thing? But do you actually think that's a real thing? Like he signed a contract that said, like you are
like
here until
actually
you don't.
like yeah like actually like no
Yes.
term
Yeah. Is there like a like? Is it like a 15
like
year
whole
deal
life
or?
insurance.
Yeah. Right. Because I always hear that term like, oh, he's got a lifetime contract, and I know I'm sure it's meant in as a at a a bit of an expression there, right? Saying that essentially he's never going to be able to leave. But like, why, Ram? If I told you at your job, you have no matter what you do, as long as you don't do something illegal, I'm going to give you your job for the rest of your life. You're going to maintain a very high pay level. Like, what would be your motivation every day to come in and say, I want to be better today than I was yesterday? Like, I want to work a little bit later. Like, you're really putting that on the person, in this case, Steve Yzerman. And I'm not saying he doesn't care, because I know he does. But even when I listen to him, and I know he's always been a very controlled person, even when he was a player, right? He didn't say a ton. And when he spoke with purpose and authority. But I agree with you. Like, your team takes on the emotion of your general manager. It is a waterfall effect. We've seen that with the Lions, and not just to keep using the Lions. Look at the Tigers, right? Look at AJ Hinch. Look at the culture he's brought into this team. Same with Scott Harris. He's been very clear from the gun of what they wanted to do. They weren't going to be big spenders in free agency. They were going to kind of develop homegrown talent and make strategic strikes when they needed to. Same with Trajan Langdon for the Pistons. Like, we're still a little early on in his tenure. In 1 year with the Pistons, Trajan Langdon has done more than Steve Yzerman's done in his 6 to 7 years with the Red Wings. Like, that should not. The Pistons were historically bad last year. Historically. And look what happened. And that's where I can't. I'm having trouble, like, comparing Steve to the other GMs, because to me it's the other three of them, on level 3, and Steve Yzerman's on the freaking ground floor heading toward the basement.
I just think that, like, in outside of Major League Baseball, which the Tigers being relevant, but outside of, like, in a salary cap professional sports league, it should not take you this long to be to turn it around,
to make the playoffs. Ram, we're talking about making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then the statistics are there. Like, there's the Red Wings have, like, the second longest playoff drought in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's and I think, and you said youth movement too. If I believe on the roster, I think the Red Wings are like the fourth oldest team, fifth oldest team in the NHL. It's not even like it's a youth movement. That's where, like, as we move down to, like, aside from the coaching, like, and we'll skip free agency and trade for a second, but look at player development. It's like, this is the constant defense we hear of Steve Yzerman. He's a great drafter. He's a great drafter. Like, he was a great drafter in Tampa. Those guys in Tampa that I mentioned, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Braden Point, Tyler Johnson, some of these guys that he signed, they were like immediate contributors, like a year to two after they were drafted. We're still waiting for Sebastian Cossa to come up. Like, the only two guys that he's really drafted that are on this team are Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond, and Marco Kasper, I guess, at this point. But, like, that's it on a roster of
Edmondson?
what? Oh yeah, yep. Like, Simon Edmondson, who's I'd say
glimpses.
He's decent. But, like, have you put the pieces around him? You were talking about this earlier about Moritz Seider. You want to talk about player development? Like, have you seen him get better? And is that because of the players around him? Like, who's he playing with? Jeff Petrie? Like, are you kidding? Ben Sherratt? Like, Justin Hall? That's who he's learning from? That's a problem.
Like, who on the Red Wings is, like, awesome? Like, who gets, like, national talk? They're like, yo, like, you should have seen, like, no, they're just boring. Like, Moritz Seider should be a generational defenseman. Like, he should be, like, a number one D man for the next, like, 10 years.
Right.
But I mean, he gets a ton of ice time, and there's just been a lot of times this, like, especially towards the end of the season, where I think he's regressed. I think maybe he could be better distributed, or not. He's like very costly with turnovers and, like, timely possessions. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, obviously he's, like, really good. He's still extremely young, but I mean, he's just another one where it's like you could put him, to your point, you could put him on a team and he could make, like, an impact. But like, should he be a number one defenseman? Like, he could be, but, like, on the Red Wings he is. But then, like, he's not. He's like, I'm not. There's not people who watch the NHL, I feel like, and they're like, man, like, this guy on the Red Wings is sick. Like,
right.
There's no one. There's not one guy. There's not one guy.
And I do feel like Dylan Larkin this is just something that's happened because we do it in the city. It's like, because Larkin's a captain, right? He's a Detroit kid. He went to Michigan. It's like we kind of put him on a pedestal because, again, being a captain in Detroit means something. When it went from Steve Yzerman, right, to Nick Lidstrom, you know what I mean? And now to Dylan Larkin, like, I understand it. But this is it Detroit good or is it NHL good? And that's where it's great that the Red Wings have the fifth ranked like, rookie pool or whatever it is, like their futures look great. Like that's awesome. And we could sit here and run through, like, do you want to talk about, Pelika and how great he is? Like, okay, cool. Is he helping us make the playoffs this year? Like Nygaard, great. The kid's 19. Like, I hope he makes it here, right? Marco Casper, he's already here. I'm just reading off their top 5. Like Nate Danielson, Grand Rapids, like, okay, but he's not here.
Yeah.
Like Sebastian Cossa is one of the top ranked goalies. He's 22 and he's seen what, a game? They pulled him up for emergency duty and ended up starting, Alex Lyon, who were on like 4 nights in a row because they didn't want to play Cossa. It's like, are we going to be a youth movement, or are we going to be this odd mix of overpriced veterans? We just don't have a direction, and I think that's clear to me based on
Kind
what
of my question for you is like, do you think the Red Wings way is dated? Like the develop them in Grand Rapids, because like now, you look at some of these guys who make an immediate impact from either the juniors or like they play in college and then they come up to the NHL and then they're just there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Do you think the Red Wings way is dated? Like, especially the development in Grand Rapids, and then who we're drafting, I think Stevie and Nick have obviously are always looking at, the international players in Sweden, especially, you look at think of perennial, if you're a hockey nerd, the perennial people that are nasty are like the Kachuk brothers, Bedard, you can even think about Bedard, he's developed that he's playing, he's not awesome yet, but he's the Blackhawks stink. I don't know. It's just, do you think that they should be doing more scouting for players that can make an immediate impact and stop with this leave him in Grand Rapids for 4 years, he'll be good. Your team stinks now.
Yeah. I mean, me as a fan perspective, and Ram, you've heard me talk about this on the Lions too, because I do think the Lions have a similar mindset. They've just drafted really well that it's allowed them to not need to go out and make the big move. But that's gotten them to be good. Has it made them great yet? No. We don't have a Super Bowl. We won 2 playoff games in 1 year, and that's what happened, right? And that's where I think if you look at the Red Wings, they don't have nearly the depth that even a team like the Lions does. I know, different sport, 53-man roster, all that stuff. And hockey historically has been, it's rare to draft a guy, outside of the top probably 3 in the draft and see him immediately play. That is a rarity that happens just because of hockey. But I think you are onto something of, after 3-4 years of having these great minor league players, right? Or these great prospects, it's all about asset management, is what you've heard me talk about this on this pod too, is how are you managing the assets? And assets can come in different ways. It's cash. How are you spending free agency? And how are you weaponizing any draft picks that you have or prospects? The problem is the Red Wings have said, we're going to go all in on prospects. We're not going to make really any trades of anybody significant in our top 20 of our prospects. And we're going to surround the young players that are good enough to play with underskilled, overpaid veterans.
And Vladimir Tarasenko.
Right. But we could go through all those guys that we've signed, right? You could argue a guy like Patrick Kane, right? Look at our roster right now of just the JT Compers of the world, right? I can go through all these guys like Eric Gustafsson, Ben Sherratt, Craig Smith that we traded for, again, Andrew Kopp, Michael Rasmussen, these are just names. These are just names that we've become used to. So yeah, I do think how we've done it is outdated, because one thing I will give Ken Holland credit for, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, is he was not afraid to make a move. Whether that was trading for a Kyle Quincy to get to the playoffs in a first-round pick, as horrible as that may have been, at least he had the balls to go for it. Steve has not gone for it. And I've given the same criticism to Brad Holmes. The Lions want to win a Super Bowl. He's going to have to sometimes lay the cojones on the table and be like, I'm making my move. We're going for it. And Steve Yzerman keeps saying, you hear in his press conferences, we're not yet there. We're not yet ready to make the move. When are you going to be ready? When you're one player away? See in 10 years, shout out Ken Holland saying that's how long a rebuild takes. We're going to be at that point. And so I think his inability to draft superstars like he did in Tampa early on it's now like that. We are now seeing the result of that these guys are not ready, and he's had to supplement it with free agents. And like, if you don't have some one or two stud draft guys, like you just got to spend and you got to give out term, and he hasn't wanted to do that. So that's my long-winded way of saying that.
Bottom line, if he, his name should buy him the time that it's bought him thus far.
Yeah.
Like, and if he is, and so that piece like is 100% true. So anybody else knows Steve Yzerman? I don't know. Like, he's gone. If he's in a city like Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto, shit, even like Boston, maybe Philly, like, he's gone. Like, he shouldn't, like, the loyalty needs to not be there. I mean,
yeah.
Like,
but does Chris Ilitch care enough? Is also my question for you. Like,
for sure not.
Like, because, and I love this shit I heard too, and I'm sure you agree with this. It's like, well, Chris Ilitch is cheap. He hasn't provided the resources needed. Shout out to everyone listening. There's a freaking cap in hockey, and the Red Wings are up against it. So, like, this is not the Tigers, where just because you don't give Jordan Yzerman some, $25 million a year deal doesn't mean you're not going to be good. Like, this is not an asset issue, in my opinion, of Ilitch, but he's putting zero pressure on him, right? Like, that's the issue. Why would you, to use the work analogy, why would you feel under any pressure to be like, meh, I'm not ready yet. I'm going to push my chips in when I got a full house. That's a whole hell of a lot easier than going in when you got two pair. That's a no-brainer.
The seed is not hot. The seed is not hot because, honestly, people don't care enough, to be honest. Like, and Chris Ilitch, he doesn't care. I mean, again, it's the Ilitch family, like, and Steve Yzerman. So, like, it's gonna be a hard thing for them to let him go, or to to make the seat hot. But they need to do something. They need to have some sort of meeting of the
come
mind.
to Jesus moment here. We need a reckoning to be. But like, Ram, even looking forward, like, to where do the Wings go from here? Like, what? You're sitting in Steve Yzerman's seat this offseason. Like, what? Like, is there a get out of jail easy button fix to this that you would feel like, this is what I think the Red Wings would do? And you can be bold in like what you think it might be. Is it trading a Larkin? Is it buying out some of these guys that are still left on term? Is it trading a Marco Casper and a draft pick to go get some younger guy somewhere? Like, what's the roadmap? Like, how do they do it, and can they in one offseason? Or are we going to be staring down a barrel of this 2 years from now again?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really tough question. It's an easy answer. It's a cop out, but they need an elite goaltender. Like, if you look at today's NHL, like, and what sort of money the elite goaltenders command, it makes, and every single relevant team has. There's not one good look at Bobrovsky, like all the perennial names like Bobrovsky, Nichushkin, fucking like God, what's his name? And
Shesterkin?
Yeah, like Vasilevsky. Like, all of these guys have had like amazing years and they get paid. So like it's something like that was something that they need to do. I don't know how they're gonna do it. Maybe
you mean trading for Peter Mrazek, who has another $4.2 million on his contract next year, and Cam Talbot, who will be 38, getting paid $2.5 million next year. That's your goalies.
Jimmy Howard. He could be. But I mean, that
Jimmy's put on a couple LBs based on seeing him on. I don't know if Jimmy would take up more of the net. I don't know if he'd be as fast as he potentially was. But
speaking of Chris Ilitch,
a little more girth.
Just a quick sidebar. Do they still have the $5 like hot dog meal at Comerica? Or is that like $7 now? $10?
Yeah.
Oh boy,
yeah, it's up. Yeah.
I saw like a college program that has like they're gonna have away free concessions. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
I did.
I'm there. I got a Little Caesar slice at opening day.
$14.
This is crazy. It was $20 for a pizza, and it was $8 for a slice. I'm sitting in line like, what in the F am I supposed to do here? Like, I do not want an entire pizza, but like, why would I pay $8 for a freaking slice when I can get a whole damn pizza for $20? It was just a dilemma I faced. And what did I do? I bought the freaking slice because I didn't want the whole pizza. And I felt horrible. And I'm a 1901 society member. I didn't even get my damn discount at opening day because the guy behind the concession stand says, yeah, we're supposed to have a barcode for that. We don't. I was like, I'm one of like 12 season ticket holders. I want my 50 cents off this overpriced pizza.
They didn't give it to you?
And I didn't even get it. No, I didn't even get it. I got to pay full price. Yeah.
Like a peasant.
Yes, I'm a peasant. I could go, how's that district looking, Chris? Let me tell you, there's not a district. Dan Gilbert's done more in 2 years than you've done in 7 of having the district Detroit. Unbelievable.
What is the answer? I think it's you gotta get rid of all this low hanging fruit. Like we gotta eat some contracts. We have to try and trade. I mean, like you need. Like,
you're gonna have to even trade in Tarasenko, Ram. Like he's got $4.7 million left on his contract guaranteed for next year. Like you're gonna buy that out. You're gonna have to trade a 3rd round pick to get rid of that money.
That's why I don't really have the answer to this, and that's why they pay Stevie the big bucks for missing the playoffs.
It's just. I mean, you look next year who we have under contract. It's like you got Larkin, who's under contract till 27-28. Lucas Raymond just signed his deal. DeBrincat still here. But then it's like Andrew Kopp, 5.7 mil. JT Compher, 5.1 mil for the next 3 seasons after this one. I mean, it is these terms. Michael Rasmussen making, again, I don't think he's a breakout player, but he's making 3.2 mil for the next 3 years after this season. Like, and then you got Moritz Seider making obviously a ton, but you still got Ben Sherrod and Justin Hall next year, each making 4.5 mil and 3.5 mil.
Justin Hall's a ghost.
Right. He didn't even play at all last year at all. And now he's second line, right? He's playing with Edmondson sometimes. Like, do you think Nick Lidstrom is the same player that he was at the end of his career without having the guidance of like a guy like Larry Murphy? Like, I think that mattered. Murph wasn't incredible, but he was a great line partner to Lidstrom. You know what I mean? He was a good Robin to, Lidstrom's Batman. And I know he's, Nick's one of the best that ever played the game, whatever, 7-8 Norris trophies. I totally get that. But like those guys matter. You want Moritz Seider to be that. You can't be rolling out Justin Hall next to him. You just can't.
No.
Can't. So
that's
are the Wings still losing? Are they still losing right now?
Western just won an OT in the Frozen Four. Wings are losing 3-1. I think the Pistons are tied.
Okay.
So here's a question. Like, the Marchand trade to Florida. Like, we're watching Florida right now. Like,
yep.
Does that ever happen? Like in Detroit town?
No.
Like, when was the last time a Detroit City they traded the only one I could think of is JV.
In terms of trading somebody away, I would say the last big acquisition that we had of anybody would be Miguel Cabrera when we traded Andrew Miller, right? And Cameron Maben. That was the last big power move that any Detroit team has made. That I can remember where we sent out young prospects to get proven players back that ended up being anything.
Yeah. No, I'm saying
Lions won't do it. They just won't.
The Bruins trading Marchand, he has been there forever. He means so much. Could you ever see them ever trading the Red Wings trading a player who means so much? So just to bring it back to Yzerman, I just that move by the Bruins. The Bruins stink. Marchand is going to fetch them some sort of assets.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I could never see the Red Wings doing that. It being in that position and doing that. So and I just equate it to, I can't really see them firing Steve Yzerman. I just don't.
You're right.
I just don't think it's going to happen. And
so what are we stuck with as fans? That's the hard part, Ram. What's
going to walk away? He's going to have to walk away and realize he stinks.
I mean, that is.
If he keeps striking and missing.
It's also just it's just another. It's just frustrating having it's going to be another off season, another season that fell short, another press conference of, him talking to Helene St. James saying well, that's a good question. I just didn't feel like we had it this year. Thanks, Steve. Thanks. Congratulations.
Are we in a better spot than we were do we miss Billy Lano?
I mean, honestly, Ram, when you look at this roster, outside of Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, in Larkin, and I guess DeBrincat. Like those 4 guys.
They're all scrubs.
Like
They're just
anybody else?
serviceable.
Like
No.
right? Like a JT Comfer is what, a 4th liner somewhere else right now? Like
yeah, I mean,
Andrew
like
Kopp. What
Tyler
are we doing?
Like Tyler Bertuzzi was like has he played 3rd line or 2nd line on the Leafs? Like I can't even think of it. He's a good kind of injury prone, or he's on.
Yeah,
sorry.
I think he was playing 3rd, if I remember right. But
I think he's no, he's on the Blackhawks now. But like,
I'm saying when he was right. Yeah. When the trade happened, he was. I believe he was playing 3rd. But
like our number 1 dudes are role players on legitimate teams, and I think it's very like well illustrated with who is gone. And so it sucks.
So Ram, we got to say this. You're Chris Illich. Do you fire Steve after the season, or do you want to give him one more run?
Like right now?
Yep.
I think I'd probably I think he's probably gone. Yeah. Like
I would agree.
It would be really tough. Walsh wouldn't do it. I don't think so. But I'd probably I mean, like because when you do, it's going to take some time. Like you're either going to stay the course with him now, or you're going to have like someone new and who's going to blow it up, and then you're looking at another 2 to 3 years to be it's going to be another rebuild. So
just brutal, dude.
Like
just brutal.
But like because I think the writing's on the wall that if you keep him, you're not again going to get into this upper echelon. Like you're just gonna like catch fire and hope that like, hey, all of a sudden these guys are like sick now. Like these guys are nasty.
It's as Valenti says, Ram. It's the hopium. You're in the hopium. That's what you're pulling for. I hope this works out. I hope this player turns out to be good. And if he doesn't, you're falling flat on your face. Which
think about it. Like, without landing DeBrincat, they would be so bad.
And DeBrincat, by the way, everyone's like, "Oh, that was a masterful deal." He's a Detroit kid from Farmington that wanted out of Ottawa. Like he was like, "Get me out of here." Like that was a unique situation of someone wanting to be here because his, you know what I mean? He's got family in Detroit. That was just a perfect scenario. I don't think Steve went and like, you know what I mean, found that one out of nowhere. Like hey, that's my other.
Where are the Sens
done
at?
Nothing.
Where are the Sens at?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a great point. And look where we are. We're on the outside looking in again for the 7th year or whatever, or the 9th year in a row, whatever it's going to be. It's just, it's.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that the sample size, like, just look at all of the teams that are actually good now or in the playoffs. Like the Sens, the Habs, they were so bad, like recently, and now they're relevant.
Yeah.
Like, they're better than the Wings. So what are we?
For sure.
So what? Yeah, that's why I probably vote.
You have other teams that have turned it around and like literally tried, rebuilt, and are now back in the time that the Red Wings haven't even been able. Again, we need to reemphasize, right? This is making the playoffs as an 8 seed. As an 8 seed. Incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that transition off the Red Wings to kind of wrap things up here.
Now, you don't take no breaks.
Dude, we just roll, bro. We just go. This is what we do. This is so your listenership out there, Ram, just because you are a listener, you know how this goes. We don't hold anything back. There's a lot going on in Detroit sports. I can't end on the Detroit Red Wings suck.
Yeah, you're right.
That's so depressing. We got to turn to just something I've predicted just so well. Just Torque, man. I saw this coming. I'm really glad I called it out in the off season. Always been a huge fan. Really knew he had it in him. Just so great to see,
Do they have anything on like the board for him? Like, like Torque, like TORQUE, like like an illustration type thing? Like for as much power as he does, like he
right.
That clip the other day when there was that guy who was they have that guy who's like chanting like Torque, 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 and then he hits the walk off. And then it pans to him, and I was like, "Is this Robbie?" I was like, "That was definitely because
nope,
it's exciting stuff."
Not me. I was very critical of Torque, as you know. I'm very critical of Hendon Hooker as well. Those are my 2 guys that I can't stand. I know you're smiling because I'm always talking shit. Is there anyone else I missed that I'm overly critical of?
So the was like Cade, Hendon Hooker, and then but the thing about Hendon Hooker is that like. At least you can point to Torque and Cade like having low performing seasons where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is why I hate these guys, or underperforming. Like Hendon Hooker just got drafted. Like he didn't do anything. He was just trying. He was like, yeah, I'll take this role. But
Yeah.
you
Listen,
just hate on like he gets in. You're like, oh great, here we go. Like
it's not the thing is, Ram. I don't actually not like Hendon Hooker. I don't like the fact that of what that player could have been for the Lions. That's what I don't like. It was a wasted pick. We literally signed Teddy Bridgewater before the playoffs last year because you didn't trust your draft pick to even be a backup. What are we doing?
Teddy Bridgewater, who did he win a state championship? Yeah, I think he did.
Yes.
Yeah, there you
He
go.
did.
Something
State champ.
something you
Yeah.
number 3.
Wow. Are you throwing darts, bro?
No, it rolled off the tongue. You brought up Teddy Bridgewater. That's tough.
I ask you on the pod as a friend and fan of the show, and you proceed to chirp on the way toward the end of this podcast.
Had to do it after the Wilson hating on Coach Carter, and
True. You had to make sure you gave. You had to make sure that you gave a little something to me.
He's editing this, and he's probably just like, how come he's not giving fish any flowers? So I had to.
Yeah. Well, there you
saw
go.
Saw an opening.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You saw an opening, and you're taking it. Ram, have you been watching the Tigers? And then we'll wrap. You've been following closely?
Hard to watch the day games with the Yankees.
Yeah.
But I did watch I actually watched like the Dodgers series in its entirety when they got swept.
Good.
But been catching the highlights. They have been. I thought that the entire White Sox series, obviously it's the White Sox, but that was an exciting series to get to start the home, home opener, and it got the town excited. I think that they look really good, and
yeah,
because
they have a culture, a gritty, scrappy culture.
Yeah, you got a proven coach. I think that 4-1. It's not an original take, but the parts where you thought they would be lacking in the season, if they can like Torque, like if they could just be the lightning rod for where they have some injuries, it's really going to be awesome to have the Tigers be relevant. It's hard to get super excited in April, but long season. But I'm glad. I love baseball, so it's awesome.
But it is April. It's April in the D, baby. Yeah, it's been fun to watch them. I agree with your thoughts on. It was like no Bregman this offseason. Remember, I even said it was like Bregman or bust. They busted there because they were like, nope, we're not getting Bregman. Then you got Torres goes down, Meadows goes down, Veerling goes down, all in like a short span of time, and Wencel Perez before the season even starts. And you got guys like Zach McKinstry, Torque, Dylan Dingler, Justin Henry Malloy, like stepping in and stepping
Casey
up.
Mize.
Riley Green, right. Yep. Casey Mize has been, our rotation's been great. Even Joe, who's just he's a young kid. He's going to have his up and downs. Like that to me is what's impressive is like when you can win when you're not at full strength, that's what gives me hope when like a Veerling comes back or a Parker Meadows or a Gleyber Torres. Like, Colt Keith is making errors all over the place at second base. He's got the most errors in the majors. He's cost us 2 games already, and he's hitting 130 at the plate. You get a guy like Gleyber Torres back. Now all of a sudden, think about just what that does to your lineup and juices it. That's what. Can we keep the boat afloat till these other guys come back? If that's the case, now I got like just a lot of confidence. I
think that listening to the pod during the off season, you and Steve not excited about Tigers. Like
was not
what they were doing.
No.
And
right.
So it's very early into the season, but it's nice to be a little excited about them, and it's cool.
Everyone knows me enough now to listen to this pod. I'm probably just overly critical and go I either love something or I hate something. I don't sit a lot in the middle on things, and that's just because I'm a passionate fan. But you want to know what's on every single night when the Tigers are on or when the Wings are on or when the Lions are on or the Pistons are on, damn well I'm watching and I'm pulling for them. So it comes from a place of passion, that does. But I'm starved for a championship, and I want one real bad. It's been so long since we've had one that I probably get a little over aggressive at times, but that's okay.
I think my hot take is that the next one playoff series by a Detroit sports team, who's going to win? Or my question to you, who's going to win the next playoff series or game, I guess, like the Lions, NFL. But who'll be the next playoff series
Pistons.
winner? Yeah, that's what I was
Pistons.
gonna say. Pistons, baby.
Pistons.
Might be
Because
this year.
it could be this year, but Ram, I think the Lions are going to be up, and I know you'll hear us talk about in the next couple of weeks. I think the Lions are going to be in an uphill battle just because of the way the NFL works. Like you get a couple of years at the top of the mountain, and then it's a bit of a downward slope, and then you kind of got to rebuild. I'm not saying that's going to happen for them next year. I think they got at least 1-2 more years, but like it's hard to. They just went 15-2. That's a damn hard thing to replicate. Their schedule's hard as hell. Like it's not that I think they're going to be bad. I just think who's positioned to potentially. I think the Pistons are on the upswing with a big offseason. Imagine they go out and get Devin Booker or something this offseason, which they could have the capital to go do that. How sick would that be to have Booker and Cade rolling together? It'd be incredible.
The Detroit boy coming home.
That's right. I love it. Well, this was great, Ram. Thanks for jumping on. I hope you enjoyed it. Any final parting words you'd like to share with our distinguished audience here on Take the Points?
No Champions League talk. We're gonna get into that.
Oh, right, Champions League.
No,
we'll leave that for a minute. Villa. Nope. Are we Aston Villa? Is that your team?
Aston Villa is my team. When we lived together. But no, I was just joking. No one really wants to talk about European soccer.
I actually think they would. So shout out to anybody listening out there. Let's leave some comments if you'd like some soccer talk on here. Because Ram, nice Billy, friend of the show, got to mention him every episode. He's been on damn near every one I've mentioned him, so I'm just going to keep it going now. He's giving me shit to make sure we got, because I even texted him today and said Ram's coming on. His first response was, "Oh, you guys talking Villa? Like, what are we talking?" And I was like, "No, we're talking Wings." And he was like,
yeah,
cool. So we'll make it happen.
If anybody, it's exciting. They're in like the final 8 of the Champions League, just like never somewhere like they just in the last they were just promoted from the we could talk. My another hot take is that they should have relegation and promotion in American sports somewhere.
Love that. Love that. Red Wings would be in like the mind. Red Wings wouldn't even be playing in the NHL. They'd be in like the CHL or something. Like
never happened because of the money in the United States. So,
which is so stupid though. Like, let's start rewarding people based on actual. Can you imagine how that would change? Like an MLB team knowing that like if you don't spend money, literally you're going to get relegated and you're not going to make as much. Like, imagine if Chris was like, "Oh, if I don't spend money, I'm actually not going to make money." Like, what an amazing concept.
It makes it so exciting too for like imagine if you had like two, like, because America loves football so much. Imagine if you had 2 NFL leagues and like one of them was like playing for a chance to get in the NFL.
Be sick.
Like, and
be sick.
And the teams that are like, if you're the 0-16 Lions, like you go down to the other league. Like, people will consume football in America like we watch Maction on Tuesdays. Miami. Yeah. They're good.
I mean, Maction's legit, although they did blow it in the MAC title game this year in basketball. I actually watched them in the MAC title game in football too, and they also blew that. That was brutal. I bet them pretty big that game. But yeah, that's a great idea. I actually love the relegation. Can we get that back?
That's like just another thing in European like soccer that is a unique thing. That's cool. So,
well, we need to get you on the pod again, Ram, because I'd love to chat. I'd love to chat a little more about some of these topics because I think you got some good takes.
Yeah, so I was a little nervous, so a little long-winded. So hopefully, if anybody hasn't shut off by now, I appreciate you.
No,
I will continue to listen.
Thank you. We appreciate you joining the pod. You are a welcome guest, a welcome friend of the pod. We like to treat those that listen well because you are a member of this Take the Points family.
When are we going to get gear? Is there going to be gear?
Yes, there is gear. Just gotta deposit the funds to get the gear made. So any advertisers out there, welcome to join.
Yeah. Just sell the t-shirts for like $75.
Yeah. Right. And that'd be a pretty solid margin, except there will be no margin on any merch that we sell. But we're on it. And make sure everybody listening, follow us on Twitter or X. You can follow us on YouTube, obviously Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. This episode too will be going up on YouTube first. Wilson's out of town until next week, so we'll try to get this pod actually up probably on Monday is my guess. So we're recording this on Thursday night tonight, so it'll be a couple days past, but it'll be up immediately on YouTube. But yeah, Ram, appreciate you joining. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode. And we will see you next time on Take the Points, a true underdog podcast. All right, we out. See you.
Go Tigers.